In my work in hospice as a chaplain, I deal with grief a lot. And people deal with grief in many different ways. And grief is usually, as I've experienced it, a type of loss. Now, that loss could be, you're going through a divorce, a loss of relationship. It could be the loss of a loved one, like as in a death, or even the loss of a career, or the loss of independence. I've had patients who are grieving the loss of their independence now that they're getting older and they're on hospice. So, grief deals with loss. And when we're dealing with that loss, it's beneficial to have somebody that we can talk to help us process that loss. And I have found that active listening is an excellent means in which to be a presence with somebody who is experiencing, either trauma or grief of some sort. And what I mean by active listening is just being a presence in somebody's life. Now, I think all of us have experienced situations where we're going through some trouble or something traumatic or just frustrating even, and we talk to somebody, whether it's a friend or a caregiver, and we start talking about what's going on, and suddenly they chime in and start talking about their issues, and it almost feels like we're being one-upped, as if the people that we're talking to can say to us, well, you think that's bad, let me tell you about my problems. Well, being of service to somebody and doing active listening is not doing that. It's active listening. It's listening to what's going on and being a presence in their life. And I'll give you an example. So if somebody is talking about the loss of a loved one and how it's affecting them, I'm going to listen. And then I might chime in every now and then and say, so what you're saying is, this happened to you today, this happened to you, etc. You must be feeling very overwhelmed. And then they'll respond either, yes, I'm overwhelmed, or they'll correct me and tell me what they're actually feeling. People code their language all the time. For an example, you're walking down the hallway at work and you say to a coworker asks you, how you doing? And you're downcast and you say, I'm all right. And you could either say, oh, great, me too, and keep going, or you could stop them and say, what's wrong? What's bothering you? Because people code their language. Oftentimes they'll say something, but they actually mean something else. So in my process of providing care to those who are grieving, is to decode the things that they're saying to me, parse out the emotions that I see in their words, and they'll correct me if I'm wrong. So if I'm talking to somebody and they're explaining to me their day, and I make a comment like, "Well, you're angry." Sometimes they'll say, "Yeah, I am angry," and sometimes they'll say it like, "I didn't realize it, but I am." Or sometimes they might say, "I'm not angry, but I'm frustrated," and then we can take the conversation wherever they're going. So active listening is really important, but there's also another factor to that, and that is being comfortable with being uncomfortable. And you might ask, well, what do I mean by that? Well, what I mean by being comfortable with being uncomfortable is that awkward silence. So if I'm visiting with a patient and the patient just passes away and we're there with the family and there's that awkward silence, no one's saying anything, don't be afraid of that, because oftentimes people want to fill up all that silence with chatter. But sometimes people need that silence to start processing what's going on, to start dealing with how they're feeling. And then when they're ready to engage, they'll let you know. But you don't have to fill up that silence. Just be comfortable with that awkward, uncomfortable silence.